So I know what you're thinking. After Naomi and John, what you really need to hear from is a chap with grey hair and glasses and a beard, and get back to that whole thing. But eyes down, looking. I'll do my best, and I'm just going to talk to a few pictures. So I'm very mindful. I'm talking about placemaking to a room of dominantly planners. So you know a lot more about this than I do. But what I want to talk about a little bit is some of the stuff that we've done as a housing organisation in this space. Some of it is stuff we're really proud of. Some of it maybe looks like we can do better in the future than we've done in the past. Much of it is actually award winning, but again, we'll come on to kind of reflect on that at the end. But that was the kind of challenge in terms of what I'm hoping to cover today. And just try to bring some of those things to life in a Scottish Borders context. But as I say, I'm no expert in this area, and you guys are. Now, Ian's had a long and illustrious career in public service, but the thing I admire most is the fact he got himself on the telly. And that's not him. That's the Egg Tycoon. That's Sir John Campbell, which was the theme of the Scottish Borders episode in the hugely popular BBC programme, The Planners, which sadly isn't currently available on iPlayer. But if we all campaign, I'm sure we'll be able to bring it back as a tribute to Ian as his planning career draws towards retirement. But I mean, joking aside, I think, planners are absolutely central in it. I've always been a bit jealous of planners, if I'm really honest. I did an economics degree in Newcastle, and one of my best friends was studying to be a planner, a guy called Tom Jones, which was always fabulous on a night out. You could go out with Tom Jones, but the planners always had a lot more fun and did a lot more practical stuff. I did quantitative methods and lots of boring nonsense like that with my economics colleagues, and the planners were right next to us, shaping the world, which you do and you still do, and it's really important. And I think we need planners to lead placemaking, and you do. We all need to get right behind you on that. And yeah, as long as we keep the egg people happy, we're doing okay. You're not the egg man. No, that's going to be in my head for the rest of the day now. So yeah, all power to planners, and anything we can do to help and collaborate is really important. So I'm going to talk through a few examples of Eildon Housing Association projects that I think contribute to placemaking. They're not the answer, they're not everything, but hopefully it illustrates, especially in a place like the Borders, placemaking means a whole range of different things in a whole range of different areas. So this is Skirling, which is right on the edge of the Borders, next to Biggar, with a border with South Lanarkshire. And that's a village green, and it looks very nice. And the houses just about, you can see in the background, are social rented affordable housing that provided an opportunity within a gap site in a small linear rural village. And it fits in really nicely, and it's a great addition, and they're very popular. And it's a small intervention. I think of 6 in that scheme. So it doesn't always have to be massive, big placemaking efforts. Small intervention in a rural area. I think that's about 20 years old now, or approaching 20 years old. But it's just part of Skirling. And if you drive past, you probably wouldn't drive past thinking, aha, there's the council houses, or there's a social rented house. You just think that's a nice setting in a nice place. Another example, this is Yarrowford, a few miles out of Selkirk. This was a project that just about to complete when I joined Eildon 14 and a bit years ago. And as you can maybe get the impression with the hill in the background, again, it's a small community. I think 12 homes on this occasion, relatively small intervention, brings a bit of life and population back into a rural community in a nice setting. So again, just a small rural investment that helps make place. This again, what it strikes people, it's blue. My God, people were kind of shocked. It's blue. Rural development should be green. What on earth are you doing putting blue cladding on a rural development? So this is in Stitch Hill near Kelso. If you look back the way, there's a village green. If you look out of these people's back windows, uninterrupted views. Absolutely wonderful views, great quality housing in a really nice rural community. It's our only intervention in Stitchell. It probably will be our only intervention in Stitchell going forwards. It's unlikely we're going to go back and build lots of houses in Stitchell. But again, small intervention making a big difference to place in the network of communities that we operate in the borders. And again, won the Scottish Home Awards at the time. Yeah, I think people have got over the fact that it's blue and not green, I like to think. So it's not all about those village developments. So this is Old Town in Peebles, effectively a conservation area. So these are all, again, Eildon properties on the road out of Peebles as you're going towards Glasgow and Neathmas Castle. That door there used to be the Citizen Advice Bureau, and then we kept the whole of the terrace together by transferring that into social rented housing. That's a different element of the same development. So again, a bit of conservation within a town centre area in terms of those considerations. Different example to look at about the kind of things that housing interventions can help with in terms of creating place. So this is another one, a really big one. So the former Kelso High School listed building, really well loved building, but no longer functional for the local high school. So Kelso's got a great new purpose-built high school. The problem then is what happens to the old building. I think one of the things I'm going to come back to at the end is we are going to talk about housing emergencies and numbers and, you know, who's making what contribution and where's the private housing coming from. Sorry, I should have said at the start. Weirdly, and probably incorrectly, my organisation as a medium-sized housing association builds more homes in the borders than anyone else. It's true. It kind of shouldn't be. We're very proud to do that. We want to do more. But that's why we're not getting the numbers. That's why we're not getting the supply. That's why we're not getting the impetus. So we're grateful and we're proud that we do that, but it's a bit of a sign of dysfunctionality that that's the case. Now, we've been doing a lot of work and discussion collectively that you've heard about already and you'll hear more about. And part of the argument within that I've heard, which I want to contend, is, well, the housing associations get all the choice. They got all the things. The things I'm showing you today, other developing organisations wouldn't touch and didn't touch. So we do the stuff where other people don't go. So I don't think, hand on heart, honestly, we're crowding anyone out. So if we're looking at that as part of the problem about a supply issue, I don't think that's true. We need to look elsewhere to address that. So very difficult building of its time, very beautiful, very lovely, very treasured in the local community, but very difficult to convert. So we took it on in partnership with others, with a local developer, with a local architects practice, many of whom actually are former pupils of the school. So they had a lot of heart in this project, and we've turned it into a modern extra care housing development where we've employed about 35 to 40 people, varies over time depending on part-time working arrangements. So it's a big employer locally, but much more importantly than that, it provides alternative accommodation for people in later life who want that security to be able to live independently, but having staff on site to help support their needs as well. Really important provision within the whole health and social care continuum, taking pressure off hospitals, taking pressure off care homes, enabling people to live independently and retain that independence as long as possible in their life. And retaining and renovating a really beautiful building in the heart of one of our towns. And we're really proud of that. Regeneration, another example, conservation, placemaking, right next to the rugby ground, right in the heart of Kelso, and even reinstating the clock at the top of the tower so everyone can know what time of day it is. So there's further development in the grounds of that. So we've got social rented housing in the grounds that are new build, and we've got purpose-built bungalows for adults with learning disabilities, creating another 20-odd jobs in this town. So thinking about the themes of today, these types of projects hits lots of buttons. That one's actually multi-award winning as well. I like to talk about the awards, not because they're the be-all and end-all, but because it helps. There's a lot of people work hard, not just in my own organisation, but within the wider partnership to make things happen. So I think recognising that achievement is really, really important. So going further into the kind of urban realm, this is Laidlaw Court in the middle of Galashiels. You may have driven past this, you may have come past it on the train today, you may have noticed it, you may have not noticed it. It's a former mill building site that sits below the A7 as it comes into Galashiels, and it has a watercourse to the left-hand side of that picture. The block, the stair on this side is shared equity housing. The rest of the property is social rented housing. In Borders terms, that's a big flattered development. We don't have that many big flattered buildings like that. So it was a brave choice, but it's worked really well. And as you can see on the next picture, we have a new innovative mass transport system that was introduced to the Borders. It's great. We've developed these really new progress. So we've reintroduced a railway, which is fabulous. And again, that came after the development of Laidlaw Court. But you can see how that's kind of helped make that a statement building on a key location next to a transport hub, and it's been a very successful intervention in the middle of one of our larger towns. So, not sure why that's flicking at me. So we go right back up to date. This is our most recent development. So this is in Eildon. This is the former Eildon High School site. And this is, for us, again, a relatively large single development. So normally we wouldn't do, this is 64 homes, units in some people's terminology, but I always like to remember these are actually people's homes and places, not just numbers and units. So we wanted to get some density on the site. So this is kind of pinching the Edinburgh colony style principle and trying to apply it within a context here. So we've got some density, but again, the other pictures will show you a broader sense of housing mix within that area. Now, these 64 homes are all for social rent, all affordable housing. There's a bit of a concern I have about that. I think we're losing some of the principles about things like mixed communities. So we don't want to create the mono-tenure estates that we've dealt with in the past and some of the regeneration issues. So, you know, I don't think we would normally always do 64 units at homes of single tenure, but in this case we did. And I think it gives, when you're doing that, it gives you some opportunity to do a range of stuff. So we have, like many organisations, community benefit strategies. We've done lots of different things, from training opportunities, employment opportunities, apprenticeships, and also work with the local community. And one of the nice things we've done here is working with a local artist, working with a local primary school, telling a story about the community and then illustrating that story in mosaic form. So if you can't make that out elsewhere, it is a mosaic that was done by a professional artist to the design of local primary pupils who helped actually create that piece of art that's now embedded in that community. They were part of the opening, they were part of it. It looks lovely to my mind. Everyone's got different tastes, and it actually tells the story of Eildon as designed by local kids. So that, you know, maybe a bit cheesy for some people's taste, but it is about embedding these opportunities within the community. On a more practical level, as well as people feeling they're having 64 homes foisted on them, maybe, in order to enable this, Scottish Water had to upgrade the water treatment work. So the wider community benefited from that investment as well. We didn't always have everyone with us right from the start, but when we did our opening the other week, there was a very impressive chap with a shepherd's crook and raspberry chinos who strode over to me to say, "I was dead against this. I didn't want this to happen, but you've done a bloody wonderful job. Well done." So we've won him over, which I think was kind of remarkable, and good on him for telling me that. But, you know, I think it's not always easy about persuading communities that these types of interventions are right. And again, this was a site after the new Eildon High School was built that was vacant for a good number of years. If any private developer would have wanted to come in and done it, they could have easily done it in that time, but they didn't. We did. We've created something that we think we're very proud of. And if it works, which it has, oh, it has, yeah, there's just a wee bit of drone footage. I'm not sure we need that music, but there you go. Nice update. So it just gives you a sense of the wider development, I guess. Crudens did this on our behalf, so it's their choice of music. So you'll see people are just moving in, but it maybe gives you a sense of the wider site and the wider place within the development. I don't think you'll be humming this tune for the rest of the conference, maybe. So. Going to get a bit repetitive, so I'll cut that one. I'll cut that one short. But again, if we did ever need a reminder, when we did the open day a couple of weeks ago, and Ian and other colleagues were there, it's always gratifying when you hear stories from people that have actually moved in. So people saying, this is great, I can afford to heat my home. This is great, there's actually natural light. This is great, there's space for my kids. This is great, we're next to the school. There's another special school nearby, so there's a whole range of needs being met within these issues. So again, big scheme in our terms, but really important placemaking, really important provision of homes. So getting to the end, it is important we talk about the housing emergency, but it is important we don't allow that to be just about numbers. If we talk about just about numbers, then we'll talk about units, we'll talk about production, and we'll forget quality and placemaking, which is what people in this room work really hard to retain. Please don't allow us to fall into that trap. Don't allow the politicians to lead us into that trap. Don't allow us our communities just to talk about numbers. We need to keep a sense of place and quality as well. Standards and sustainability, again, learning the lessons of the past. You know, I say I feel slightly uncomfortable. We're doing schemes of 64 homes, all of a single tenure. In an ideal world, I would have much preferred that to be more mixed, more different tenures. And of course, on the other side, it is expensive to do any project at the moment. It is testing everyone's viability. We are seeing some eye-watering tenders coming in, but it's important we don't just shut up shop and stop everything. So we are approving. We had a board meeting last night. We approved a project which, in normal circumstances, we would have balked at. We would have parked. We would have mothballed. But we can't just stop. You know, we can't go at the pace we were before because of the price of everything. But we can't just stop. It is important we keep some momentum going. I think the problem with the housing emergency, it sounds like there's a fix. These are long-term issues. The housing emergency has been a long time in the making. There's going to be a set of solutions that is going to take us a long time to address all of these issues. But if we keep the innovation and creativity that we've got and the partnerships that we've got, I'm really proud to lead my organisation for the last 14 years. I'm really proud of the stuff we do. We make a big difference, but we only do it because we've got excellent relationships with local groups and with partner organisations, in particular the planning and the housing strategy teams. And that is absolutely crucial to make any of these things work. So in that challenging environment, I think we need to lean into the expertise of planners more. We need to lean into the partnership activity. We need to look at where there's mutual opportunities, like the projects that John set out before, like the fact that public sector organisations have got buildings and assets that they don't simply want anymore. There's got to be some opportunities in there, you know, just having buildings that are no longer needed for the purpose that they were built. So we need to kind of lean into that partnership working and create some further opportunities out of that. And I'm sure we will, but no short-term fixes. And we need to remember this is about homes, not units. And we are creating places that need to be, we're proud of in the future. And I'm not sure in this audience, you know a lot more about this than me, but you may recognise that chap, former MSP. I think he said, what about creating the conservation areas of the future? I think that was in line with when we were talking about national parks, wasn't it? When the first national parks were being created, 25 years of Scottish Parliament, we're looking back, Sam Galbraith. So, you know, I don't think the conservation area to me isn't the be all and end all, but we're creating places that are going to work for future needs, that we're going to be proud of, that people are proud to live in. And are we mindful of the thing I hear a lot that drives me mad when we look at projects? Is it in keeping? Like that's the be all and end all. Is it just pastiche? Is it backward looking? Or are we actually creating communities and homes and places of the future? So it obviously is a bit of a triggering word for me, in keeping. It's a different way of just saying no to stuff that people don't want without any other good reason. But Again, that's my own perspective. So whenever I hear people say in keeping, I like to challenge that a wee bit. And I guess on a final note, are we challenging ourselves enough about being bold, about placemaking and quality and sustainability? So we're doing lots of stuff that I'm incredibly proud of, but we do need to do more, and we do need to keep that innovation and development going. So enough from me, another man with a beard and grey hair and glasses, and you'll hear about more from other people going forward. But thanks for listening.